Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has maintained its decision to disallow use of the manual voters register across the 46,000 polling stations as a complementary mechanism to the electronic identification of voters in the August polls. The electoral agency says it arrived at the decision based on the Court of Appeal judgment of 2017 when the defunct National Super Alliance, NASA, had gone to court seeking orders to overturn a High Court ruling that found that the Commission had provided a complementary voter identification mechanism. Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga and several civil society organizations have questioned IEBC's rationale in its directive.
While meeting the Kenya Editors Guild in Kwale County, IEBC responded to concerns raised by Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga and civil society groups regarding its decision to do away with the use of the manual voters register as a complementary mechanism in the upcoming general election. The electoral body maintaining that it will use biometric verification as the primary mode of identifying voters.
Biometric verification is a primary mode of identifying voters. Where a voter cannot be identified using biometrics, then the presiding officer shall use a complementary mechanism of alphanumeric search in the presence of agents, and the voter shall fill Form 30.
The failure rate is supposed to be very low because we have 10 fingerprints and you only need one. So if one does, you go to the next one until all the 10 are exhausted.
The Commission terming the administrative directive the ultimate solution to electoral malpractices.
Of course, we recruit our poll officials from Kenyans, isn't it? We know who they are. If they are all belonging to one community and they have a preferred candidate, they can decide to collude and say what? Si register iko na watu yetu, wacha to cross alafu tuwa votie. So we are trying to avoid something like that.
Among the concerns raised by Odinga include the collapse of the electronic voter identification system by default or design that could deny the electorate an opportunity to exercise their democratic right at the ballot. But the Commission says that the backup KIMS kits will be good enough and no voter will be turned away.
So if there is a total failure of the primary kit that was taken there in the morning, and if there is again a failure of the backup kit, then the presiding officer will have to report the same to the returning officer, and there is a protocol for that. Now when the complementary mechanism will kick in. That means as a last resort, then you resort to the register.
Odinga, through his chief legal advisor Paul Mwangi, questioned Chebukati's change of heart after rooting for manual identification of voters and results transmission as a complementary measure in the 2017 general election. According to Odinga, who was in the 2013 and 2017 presidential races, technology failure on election day is likely. He termed Chebukati's directive a risky one since it is based on an assumption that the KIMS kits will work seamlessly. In court are 7 civil society organizations challenging IEBC's decision. The groups have asked the High Court to compel IEBC to restore the use of the manual register. Concerns shared by ODM party chairman John Mbadi, who wants the Electoral Commission IEBC to use both the manual and electronic registers in the August elections.
We would want electronic voter identification because it minimizes theft of votes. But previously, we have seen cases where the system has failed and it has been consistent, and we have our feelings, and we fear, we have a concern that it may not be different.
IEBC has scheduled a meeting with the 4 presidential candidates on Wednesday next week to reach a consensus over the matter.
Strategic thinking and approach, particularly on how we are going to